Yeah, as I was saying, I'm 40 pounds lighter than when you first met me.
40 pounds?
40 pounds.
What do you weigh?
179 as of this morning.
Holy smokes. So I'm up in weight. I'm like 174. We've never been this close, and
Yeah.
I've known him since 2009. So you were your fight weight was what back in your best fight weight with all your musculature?
If before MMA and NHB, I was 169.
Wow.
And I wanted to go to Japan and start doing shoot wrestling and the Pancrase and all that other stuff, and I noticed that there was no small guys, so I'm like, I got to get up to at least 190. So I went into this big craze where I had to like gain weight.
You said there were no small guys, so you wouldn't have had any matches.
Well, there might have been small guys fighting. I just never saw them.
So you wanted to get up where there was more action?
Yeah, about 190, 200 pounds. So I went overnight. I went one kickboxing match. I was a super middleweight. Next kickboxing match, I was a light heavyweight, which in kickboxing is going to be around 170 to 180. Okay, and then I had one match at cruiserweight, and all of a sudden I'm now a heavyweight in kickboxing.
Were you up to the weight in kickboxing?
I was on the I was weighing around what Rocky Marciano was weighing.
188, 190?
193.
193.
Yeah. So, but I always found that the heavyweights were very slow, so I didn't have any problems with it.
And good defense, right? If you were
Oh yeah,
speedy, you had
didn't want to get hit. Did not want to get hit.
So the point I was leading up to just a moment ago was taking advice, and so you want to take advice from people who care about you, have expertise, and can slow down and think about your situation, right? So my inference and hypothesis and counsel has to do with retirement planning. When you have a 401k and you ask for advice, you don't find old people telling young people that it's okay to deplete their 401k while they're still young because they'll be able to make up for it later in life. You never hear that. When you've talked to people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s and beyond, you hear them telling you, oh, save as much as you can. Don't blow your money. Don't get married repeatedly and go through legal issues, you know. And so the same...
I thought you were just going to leave it at that. Don't get married.
Ever. I did ask someone in my jiu-jitsu gym who was a New York digital nomad and a computer programmer, and he was a purple belt, and I was in Colombia, Medellin this winter, and I was interviewing some of the guys in my Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym. I said, what's the secret to your financial success? He says, don't get married, ever. And he says that right to the camera. But you rarely find old people telling young people that they should deplete that 401k, that you can use that, you know, as an emergency fund. No, it's for retirement. You have emergency fund, you have your house, you have your savings account, you try to get your debt down. Those are all sensible things.
Yeah, and rarely do you have a full contact coach telling you to go full contact every single gym. Somehow, some way, some of my guys think that's the way I wanted things done. I'm like, I've never ever said that.
Even 20 years ago, you weren't like that.
No, it was never like that. This is
But you get more safety conscious over the years?
No. I think I've stayed at the same level for specifically the past 6 or 7 years. The saying that I say is the more wars you have here, the less wars you get to have out there.
Where you can make money and
right,
get a trophy.
Right, and then I had to tell the guys, like, I had, for all the kickboxing matches I've had a total of 9 pro and 5 amateur, 6 amateur kickboxing matches. I rarely sparred.
And your coaches weren't telling you to spar?
I didn't really have coaches.
Really?
I had instructors teaching me
and they weren't saying, get this guy to spar with, get this guy, go in there and spar? No?
No. Every once in a while we'll have a nice light sparring. We'll work.
And that was post age 25, you did a lot less sparring, is that the idea?
No, before 25. Even
my
very first kickboxing match that I ever took, I only had 2 sparring matches.
So the follow-up to my 401k inference was you rarely find old people telling young people to tough it out when it comes to permanently injuring your body and brain, which was common in my generation as a young person. Muhammad Ali sparring all the time, the football players in college and high school, brutal sessions in the summertime, sometimes without giving them water in the 70s because they thought they were going to cramp up. How silly they were. But that's some of the things that they didn't know back in the day. And then when one coach was tougher than everyone and his teams were winners and vicious and whatever, a lot of people followed that person's plan. And I don't know if you experience any of that with tough, win-at-all-cost type coaches.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do have that mentality where it's like, look, we're gonna put you to the edge, and you know, nobody's going to be tougher than you are going to be getting into that ring, because you already know how the wars are and such like that. But the science is there. You're going to wear down the body. Don't get me wrong. We're currently in the middle of a fight camp, and
It's tough.
oh yeah, we wear our guys down. But it's more about conditioning and cardio. You know, your anaerobic workouts and your and getting them tired and fight through your tire.
Be able to get up again, get
Right.
up, just lifting your body up off the ground, like doing burpees. When even if you're not exhausted, if we went out and did burpees right now for what, 3 minutes, we would be spent.
Yeah, no. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody coming in here who's just like, no, I just want to fight. I want to, do this. And so I put them through a conditioning workout, and
they realize
that it's not there. It's like, you're going to meet somebody who you can't simply out tough. Okay, and so the old adage, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So that's why I do that. If you can find the heart, if you can bring it to the deep end, then you can go ahead and do that. You don't need to take punch after punch after punch after punch. It's actually all in here. That's why every sport that you go to that's hard, they said you got to have heart.
Yeah.
Said not lack of brain cells.
So I talked to John Hackelman on the phone yesterday for maybe 40 minutes about some of these issues, and he's a coach, former coach of Chuck Liddell and many MMA fighters and regular martial artists, and even some people like a disabled person from Afghanistan with one leg. He's coaching a wide variety of people up in Arroyo Grande, north of here, under 2 hours. And he said, you have a lot of these people who are these win-at-all-cost coach. But he started 20 years ago moving more towards less sparring, more drilling, more aerobic conditioning, all these things that are sustainable, because if you make this pivotal decision wrong, as Mike said, you can wear out your ability, mind, body, and spirit, and your whole youth, where you have those pivotal 4 years to go out and do your best in either an amateur competition, pro, or a big money fight. You don't have that many of those years. Mike Tyson may have had 3 or 4 really top years. Muhammad Ali, maybe 4 or 5 top years, and then Vietnam. Then he came back, and he had to pull rabbits out of hats too often. So you have these pivotal decisions, and in my opinion, you told me a long time ago, for my own benefit, this was back in 2010, he knew me about a year at that time, and he said, learn about Asian etiquette. Because I didn't know much about Asian etiquette. I was in this Taekwondo school. I'd done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I really liked the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because we kind of were sharing the experience. We weren't pounding each other. I really liked that part. And I rarely got injured when I was in my 30s and early 40s in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So Sifu Mike told me to learn about Asian etiquette. And when I think about Asian etiquette, one of the big things I think of is being a good listener to other Sifus and being open-minded. And not opening your mouth all the time, not using your ego, using like a balanced mind, body, and spirit, and keeping your heart soft so you can receive someone's energy and not kind of go at it with ruthlessness. Be open to learning from each individual. And tell me what you remember about Asian etiquette, and why, maybe if you do remember that in 2010 you told me to look into that.
Well, basically, a lot of the things in Asian etiquette is. My favorite is the assumption of responsibility. Okay, it's kind of like, who is going to out-humble the other person. Okay,
that's a big.
It's always it's really my fault. I'm going to take it, and you take it upon yourself to understand that this is your responsibility. Okay, so if something goes wrong, the main idea about the people around you is you want to help them save face. So you always allow them to have a way out to be able to save face. You don't want to
crush their ego.
Yeah, don't crush your ego. I mean, you're saying this thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the huge appeal about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and all the cousins along there is it allows a person to have a degree of success and still come back the very next day uninjured. Uninjured, as opposed to
And shaking hands and hugging.
Yeah.
Before he left that gym.
Yeah,
The day before.
there's an acceptance of the rules. There's an acceptance that this is where we're going to stop.
Sustainable.
Mm-hmm. So, and you know, that's pretty much the main appeal. The problem with boxing and kickboxing, you're talking to a person who's done boxing, kickboxing for decades, but you have to be willing to. Oh, I just got punched. Now me, I got the non-breaking nose, but the guys who every once in a while they zigged when they should have zagged. They're running to the bathroom, and the nose is bleeding a little bit like that. So. Or you might have seen stars, and then when you see stars, you're small chance you got a minor concussion, and that's not something that you can do every single day.
No. So we've got the Asian etiquette on one hand, and then you have the generation where I grew up in the 60s and 70s, which was this hardcore football, wrestling coach, soccer, gymnastics, cheerleading. It was so competitive to make these teams when I was growing up. I don't think it's as competitive now. I could be wrong, but we all played sports in my high school. Almost everyone played sports. Now it might be 15 to 20% that played the interscholastic sports, but almost all of us when I was in high school played at least one sport. Many of us three, and then some sort of summer league, and then winter camp during Christmas. It was nonstop. It was the Cold War during the Soviet Union in America. It was coming out of World War II, Vietnam and Korea. You had all this competition and warlike behavior, and you had our parents and our grandparents who were immigrants on the East Coast that had to muscle up and tough it out when they showed up here from various countries in Europe without speaking English, and they got kind of abused. Time.
Yeah. So shall we save it for the next video?
Yeah, we can
All right.
save it for the next video. So we'll talk about the system, our current system versus Asian etiquette the next time. And I'm Sifu Slim, SifuSlim.com. Sifu Mike McDonald, your website?
You can go to my YouTube channel, Valhalla MMA Kickboxing and Fitness. I think it is a nice big long one. But I'm starting to make videos again too. I used to have a really good consistent one. Can I mirror this? Get a copy. I'd like to upload it on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, we'd be happy to give you one.
All right.
All right, Asian etiquette and blessings to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.